Plucked from the trash, everyday objects are destroyed, then transformed by technology, reborn into modern marvels. Radiators heat up into bathtubs. Bottle caps roll into skateboards. Windows break into beer bottles. These are the things that are made by destruction. We've been heating our homes with hot water radiators for about 150 years. The water circulates through the cast iron fins, which retain the heat and radiate a warm, even temperature. But old school radiators are heavyweight space hogs. And slimline steel models and forced air gas are making the old rads obsolete. Now a company in Wisconsin has come up with a cool way for scrapped radiators to still keep you warm without ever leaving the house. The Kohler factory recycles 54,000 tons of scrap metal every year, melting cast iron down into a renewable resource and transforming old radiators from a hot zone into a comfort zone. Cast-off radiators are recast into luxury bathtubs. To turn the radiators into soaker tubs, foundry workers melt, mold, and coat the cast iron. The first step in the destruction process is loading. A powerful magnet chained to a crane picks up radiator parts along with iron-rich scrap metal and airdrops them into a huge tray called a charging pan. The pans empty scrap iron onto a scale until the weight count hits 4,000 kilograms. A heavy-duty belt shakes the cast iron parts into a large cone, which funnels it into a charge bucket. A crane carries the charge bucket across the foundry and lowers it into the mouth of a 2.5 meter wide induction furnace. The bucket releases metal into the furnace and it begins to melt. An induction furnace is surrounded by a coil of copper wire. The coil creates a rapidly reversing magnetic field, exciting the atoms in the metal that in turn generates temperatures of 1,300 degrees Celsius. It can liquefy 13 tons of scrap every hour. Next, a high-capacity ladle hovers over the rear of the furnace. Hydraulic arms tip the furnace, channeling 9-ton batches of hot cast iron into the suspended ladle. An overhead trolley moves the molten iron to a holding furnace, where it maintains the temperature before the casting can begin. In creation step 1, the melted down radiators are poured into sand molds. A foundry worker ferries the molten iron to the molding line. He pours the melted metal into bathtub-shaped sand molds. Once the metal cools, the sand molds are broken apart. Then the tubs are blasted with steel shot to scour the surface clean. The operator guides the tub to the grinding station. A robotic arm grabs the 115-kilogram tub in its claws and swivels it onto an assembly line. Automated grinders sweep along the walls of the tub, sanding down any rough surfaces. "65 bathtubs per hour pass through the grinder gauntlet." A tech inspects every tub that comes off the line. He manually grinds the hard-to-reach spots that the auto sander may have missed. The surface is smooth and uniform. This bathtub is ready for a shower. The bathtub is coated with enamel, baked, then sprayed again to give the cast iron tub its familiar white gloss. Foundry workers melt down scrap cast iron radiators, mold them into bathtubs, then blast and sand the surface until they're ready to be enameled. First, workers sprinkle on a base coat made with a slurry of powdered glass. This first coat prepares the cast iron surface to adhere to the enamel. An operator wheels the tub into an oven where the undercoat bakes at 900 degrees Celsius for 10 to 12 minutes. Once the first layer is fused to the metal, the bathtub is heated in a second oven, now to 970 degrees Celsius. A forklift pulls the red-hot tub out of the oven and loads it onto a manipulator. While the manipulator's hydraulic cradle swivels and rotates the ultra-hot bathtub, a worker sprinkles it with enamel. He uses a sieve with an air vibrator to ensure even coverage. Enamel is a mix of silica and quartz. When it makes contact with the hot surface of the tub, enamel melts and bonds on contact, instantly forming a glassy, durable coating. The process is repeated until finally a worker pulls the tub out of the oven for the last time and rolls it to a cooling shed. Now that it's cool and dry, it's ready to get warm and wet in households around the world. The radiators that once kept your living room warm have moved to the bathroom. Melted, molded, and recast as a luxurious bathtub. So you can soak for hours in a tub that will last for generations and turn every day into a spa day. Worldwide, 1 million plastic beverage bottles are bought every minute. That means about 20,000 plastic caps are twisted off a bottle every second. All that plastic inspired an Amsterdam company to turn them into a street-smart ride. The Wasteboard company is collecting bottle caps and remaking them into a sidewalk surfer with real curb appeal. Plastic bottle caps are being baked into skateboards. The first step in destruction is collecting. Today, a team from a company called Plastic Whale is fishing plastic bottles out of Amsterdam's canals. They trap the bobbing bottles in their nets. At their shop, workers unscrew the bottle caps, then bag them and ship them across town to the Wasteboard warehouse. In Destruction Step 2, the plastic bottle caps are sorted. At the Wasteboard shop, a worker separates the white plastic caps from the colored ones and sets them aside. Then she gathers the rest of the caps and drops a multicolored mix into an industrial blender. Inside the blender, sharp blades cut the plastic caps into smaller and smaller pieces. The result? Multicolored confetti-like shredded plastic. Discarded bottle caps have been fished out of canals, sorted, and shredded. Plastic bottle caps are transformed into a one-of-a-kind ride. Plastic bottle caps have been tossed out, fished out, and sorted out into a raw material ready to be baked into a skateboard deck. A craftsperson measures out scoops of shredded bottle caps. Then, a worker clips 2 non-stick plastic sheets to the inside of a pan. He pours the vivid plastic shred into the pan and levels it off. Then, he pops the pan into an oven. Once the first layer is melted, the pan is ready for its second coat. A worker covers the pan in white caps and distributes them evenly. Then it goes back in the oven. While the white layer is still warm and gooey, the worker dots the surface with colored caps to create an eye-catching pattern. He puts the plastic parfait back in the oven until the layers melt and blend together. While the board is baking, the craftsmen prep for the next step, molding. They preheat a steel mold, draping it in a thermal blanket to trap the heat. They pull off the blanket and open the mold. Then the craftsman sprays the metal surface with a non-stick lubricant. The workers pull the pan of triple-layered bottle cap bake from the oven and lay it on the table. The craftsmen then flip the top of the mold onto the pan and turn it over. Then they cover the mold and screw it down tight. Fans cool the plastic down for about an hour. The workers unpack the mold and release the hardened resin. The worker uses a circular knife to trim the edges, revealing the skateboard's rounded rectangle shape. Then, the worker drills holes in the resin for the axle and wheel hardware called trucks. He pushes screws through the deck. Then, bolts on the trucks and locks them tight with a power drill. Once the wheels are secured, this wasteboard is ready to roll. Tossed off bottle caps have been shredded, shaped, and baked into a sustainable skateboard deck, capped with a cool, one-of-a-kind design. And with billions of discarded plastic caps lying around, everybody can get on board. It's crystal clear. Glass gives us a window on our modern world. Every year, glassmakers produce over 9 billion square meters of flat glass, enough to make a window pane slightly larger than Puerto Rico. While glass isn't unbreakable, it's endlessly recyclable. So Malta Glass in Lommel, Belgium is turning broken windows into a refreshing new solution. Window panes are remodeled into beer bottles. To return the flat glass to a raw material, workers sort, smash, and grind the glass into tiny shards. In destruction step 1, sheets of discarded glass are broken down. A truck dumps a load of cracked window glass into the factory yard, which shatters on impact. some of the windows that arrive at the plant are encased in wood and plastic framing that needs to be removed. A front loader scoops up the glass and shovels it into a drum sieve. Inside the mesh drum, the tumbling glass slams into spiral fins, which break it up and separate the glass from the frames. The glass pieces fall through the grated sides. Large chunks of plastic and metal debris land on a conveyor belt that chucks it onto a pile. A front loader drops the 20-centimeter glass pieces onto a belt that moves them into the plant. Inspectors pick off bits of paper, plastic, or metal that made it through the sieve. The glass then moves into a final spinning drum, which filters out any remaining non-glass debris. What's left are pure glass shards called cullets. They rain down onto a conveyor and cascade into a bin at the end of the line. Broken windows have been shattered into cullets. Recycled glass that's one step from a hot furnace and on its way to bottling a cold beer. Bottle makers blend, heat, and shape the glass shards into beer bottles. Glass recyclers process broken window panes, crushing, grinding, and refining them into pure glass shards called cullets. The cullets arrive at OI in Leederum, Netherlands. They'll mix, melt, and mold the glass cullets into glass beer bottles. First, the cullets need to be blended with a few other glass-making ingredients. From a nearby barge, a crane transfers loads of limestone, sand, and ash into a mixer. The clear glass cullet is added. Finally, green cullet is added to give the beer bottles their final color. All the ingredients are mixed together and released into a furnace. A glass worker uses a temperature gun to check that the furnace is blazing at 1,550 degrees Celsius, which is hotter than volcanic lava. It takes 24 hours to liquefy the ingredients into molten glass. At a molecular level, glass is like a cross between a liquid and a solid, with some of the crystalline order of a solid and some of the molecular randomness of a liquid. When it's ready, a technician releases streams of molten glass into a melter. A blade portions off fist-sized globs of glass, which land in a refiner. The red-hot globs shoot through cooling pipes on their way to the next step in creation, forming. The molten glass lands in a blow mold the shape of an upside-down beer bottle. Jets of compressed air inflate the molten glass until it expands and fills the mold. The roughly formed bottles are flipped right side up and encased in a second mold. Another blast of air is blown into the mold to transform the molten glass into its final shape. The mold opens, releasing the newborn bottle. Clamps lift the hot bottle by the neck and shuttle it onto a crowded cooling line. About 500,000 bottles are deposited on the line every hour, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The run of bottles speeds towards the last phase of production. The bottles travel through a layer, passing through controlled temperature zones so they cool slowly. This tempers the glass and prevents it from cracking. The cool bottles exit the layer. They're now a familiar translucent green. Automated shower nozzles spray the sea of bottles with a lubricant, so they can jostle their way through inspection without scratching the glass surface. An inspector spot checks the bottles for strength, thickness, shape, and color. The bottles then file through an automatic inspection station. Cameras and lasers check the bottles for cracks or bubbles. If they spot an imperfection, the bottle is bounced off the line. After passing inspection, the bottles collect on pallets. A machine lifts the pallets and stacks them into towers 4,000 bottles high. A machine wraps the towers in plastic and readies them for shipment to the brewery. Heat, know-how, and heavy machinery can turn a broken window into a window of opportunity, and shattered glass into a brand new bottle. The answer is clear. A good idea, like a good beer, is worth bottling.